to what extent, how far would we as human beings, should we be that we think it's better for us to die? I know it's a very touching subject, but some time ago I had this understanding that we really do not own our lives. So we got no, you can't give or you cannot take something that doesn't belong to you. Have you ever been in such great distress that you question your existence? And I think some of the things we're going to be talking about or reading from the book of Job henceforth may help us to explore some of the challenges that people face during when they are in very difficult situations, and what they think about God and their situation. So you're welcome back to this channel, and we're looking at the chapter 3 of Job today. So let's just jump into the reading. So chapter 3 verse 1 says, after this Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. And Job spoke and said, may the day perish on which I was born, and the night in which it was said, a male child is conceived. And may that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, nor the light shine upon it. May darkness and the shadow of death claim it. May a cloud settle on it. May the blackness of the day terrify it. As for that night, may darkness seize it. May it not rejoice among the days of the year. May it come into the number of the months. Oh, may that night be barren. May no joyful shout come into it. May those curse it who curse the day. Those who are ready to arouse Leviathan. May the stars of its morning be dark. May it look for light, but have none, and not see the dawning of the day, because it is not shut up the door of my mother's womb, nor hide sorrow from my eyes. Why did I not die at birth? Why did I not perish when I came from the womb? Why did the knees receive me? Or why are the breasts that I should nurse? For now I would have lain still and been quiet. I would have been asleep when I would have been at rest with the kings and counselors of the earth, who built ruins for themselves, or with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden like a stillborn child, like infants who never saw light? There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners rest together. They do not hear the voice of the oppressor. The small and great are they, and the servant is free from his master. Why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter of soul, who long for death, but it does not come, and search it, for it is more than hidden treasure, who rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they can find the grave? Why is light given to a man whose way is hidden, and whom God has edged in? For my sighing comes before I ate, and my groaning pour out like water. For the thing I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I'm not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, for trouble comes. As I was reading that, a few things occurred to me. Now, Job started, we understand, I haven't heard in this life of anybody that has suffered the kind of, loss that Job experienced. He lost all his properties. He lost all his livelihood, so to say, the cattle, he lost his business. And on top of that, he lost all of his children. He had 10 children and lost all of them in one day. Because if we remember from verse 1, the first person that brought news of the Sabbatean taking the sheep and the flock, he said, I'm the last person, I'm the only one that was spared, and I came to report. And just the next verse says, and as just he was talking about it, somebody else came to report something else that's been totally destroyed. And he said it's the last person that was alive. So he came to tell the master what's happened. And just as he was doing that, so all of that loss, all of those things I've described happened in one day. And I've never heard of anybody else that suffered this extent of loss. Not only that, Job then lost his children. And after losing his children, we read in verse chapter 2 that his health is now in a very terrible state. So if you put all of those things together, I don't know, maybe can you put it in the comment if you know any other person that has suffered this kind of loss, this scale of loss? So if Job was feeling very down and did not know what to do, I can understand that. Because don't forget that for him to have acquired all that possession, yes, the Lord blessed him, but God does not bless lazy people, not because he doesn't bless them. He gives them grace, but if you multiply zero effort by even 1,000,000 times, it's still going to be zero. So I want to believe that Job was a hardworking man and God blessed him. And of course, his property was multiplied. And that would have taken years. It would have taken him years to get to that state of prosperity that we saw in there, because it was quite a lot of possession that he lost. Not only that, it would have taken him a lot of years to have 10 children. We don't know, maybe because in those days, when it comes to childbirth, a lot of children die very young. His children, from what we read, my understanding is that they were matured and grown, they were adults. So again, it would have taken him years to get to that stage. And then he lost all his children in one day. The effect of losing a child is enough sometimes to destroy homes. How much more losing all the children that he had? So you can understand the depth. I don't think, actually, maybe it's understatement to say that we can understand the depth of his sorrow, but it would have been a deep sorrow that he found himself. So we know, though, that despite all that, Job, we're told in verse chapter 2 that he did not curse God. However, I don't understand the effect of cursing the day he was born, because the day he was born is long past and it's never going to happen again. That day will never come again. I know there will be a replica of it, or a repeat of that date, but the day he was actually given birth to would not come again. So the effect of cursing the day he was born, I don't really know. I don't understand the logic behind that. If you do, please put it in a comment and let me know your thoughts about that. But I don't see what impact it will have to cause the day he was born, which is what he did. Now, one of the things that made me to become fascinated with this book is the way some of the words are written, the expression, flowery language that is poetry, of course, is poetic. And thinking about some of the things that he's described here, it just, the words gives me statements. Some of it, parts of the verses gives you statement that you can use as comparison, you can use in description, you can use in to expand your understanding. For instance, he said in verse 13, for now I would have been laid still and been quiet. I would have been asleep. Then I would have been at rest with kings and counselors of the earth who built ruins for themselves. So what I'm trying to say is that he's expressing the his understanding that, you know, kings and counselors are resting in peace. That's my understanding from there. I may be wrong. Let me know your thoughts about this. And, there are some other things that he said. If you go to verse 20, it says, why is light given to him who is in mystery, and life to the bitter of the soul? Some of this I don't even understand, but they are poetic, or I would say wisdom writing, and it just enriches this book and endears it to me. Let's see again. It says, and search for it more than hidden treasures. What did he say there? He said, who long for death, but it does not come, and search for it more than hidden treasures. So what he's trying to say there is the fact that the state is in, maybe it would have been better he's dead, that death is more enticing than the state he finds himself now, because he probably would have given everything to be dead than being in that state. Maybe it's understandable, but it's also a subject for discussion. To what extent, how far would we as human beings, should we be that we think it's better for us to die? I know it's a very touching subject, but some time ago I had this understanding that we really do not own our lives. So you can't give, or you cannot take something that doesn't belong to you. And my understanding came from the fact that I realized that when God made man, if we go back to creation, we see that for very many parts of creation, God, like the inanimate things, God spoke and they came into being. When it came to animals, the things that are in water, the Lord called them out of the water. So God exercised different ways in which he created his things. When it came to animals, he called them out. But when it came to human beings, the Lord molded the first man from the mud, and they went an extra mile and breathed into his nostrils. In other words, God gave him life. It impacted life onto human beings, which means that this is the understanding I have, that we do not own our lives. We are an extension of God. That is why we don't have the right to take life. As much as God later gave the first men, Adam and Eve, the permission to eat animals, even though they were originally herbivores, because he said they should eat from every fruit of the tree. But after the fall, he gave them permission to, was he after the fall, or I think after the Noah, after the flood, gave them permission to eat. I need to check that. He gave them permission to eat, to kill and eat animals. It's okay to kill an animal for food, but you cannot kill a human being for food, because a human being, we are all the same species, and we the life we have is an extension of the life of God, because God breathes into our nostrils. So that's why we do not have the right to take lives of a fellow human being. And so, going back to what I was saying about Job, is it right for him to wish death on himself? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay. Another verse that really caught my eye from this chapter 3 is what Job said in chapter 25. I'm going to read that. It says, for the thing that I greatly fear has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. I'm not at ease, or am I quiet? I have no rest, for trouble comes. Okay, I think actually the main verse is 25. So if we cast our mind back to one of the things that Job used to do, is that it says that, I'm trying to look for that verse. It says that, okay, verse 5 in chapter 1 says, so it was that when the days of feasting had run their course, that Job would send and sanctify them. That is talking about his children. And he will rise early in the morning and offer burnt offering according to the number of them. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and caused God in their heart. Thus Job did regularly. I think this may be one of the things he feared. He feared that his children would cause God, and that's why he was making sacrifices for them unto the Lord on their behalf. And he probably would never, I don't think, it's not a question of probably, he would never have thought that it could come, that a situation as great as this could befall him, where he lost everything and lost all of his children. However, I think that he was afraid. He was afraid of calamity. He was afraid of losing his children. He was afraid possibly of losing his business. And that's one of the things that, made him to sacrifice and to pray unto God. Surely I'm not saying we should not ask God for protection, but fear is what I want to talk about here. We can see here that Job was afraid. And could that be a loophole? I don't know, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. One thing I know though is that one of the things that God expressly says to people is the fact that we should not fear. He said it to Abraham. He said, fear not. And he told Joshua that he should be courageous. And courage, you encourage somebody that you see a tendency for fear in them. And so some people say, and I think it's true, that fear is the opposite of faith. So we believe God and we have faith in the face of maybe a difficult or challenging situation, which some people may succumb to and be afraid of. So Job expressly says here that he was afraid. And I think one big lesson I'm taking away from this chapter is the fact that we should not be afraid of any situation. I'm speaking to you and speaking to myself as well. Be encouraged, trust in the Lord, and be not afraid of any situation or circumstance. So this is the third video, which is the third chapter in the book of Job. And if you haven't seen the previous video, I'm going to link the second video up here and you can watch that. Also, look out for the fourth video, which is going to be on the fourth book of Job. So I hope this video has been of benefit to you, and if so, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also turn on your notification button so you can receive an alert when a new video has been released. Until next time, I say unto you to search your scriptures for those nuggets, and God bless.